Good morning. I'm sitting out here in sunny Arizona right now. It's February, and it's like 60 degrees right now at like 9:30 in the morning, or maybe it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Um, and it's winter time. So for me, normally it's snowing or raining and not very nice out. Um, but right now it's really nice. And I'm thinking about all the people that do this permanently, that live, maybe 6 months a year in a nice desert climate in the winter, and then go back to a different residence for the colder months. And you have to do something to be able to afford that lifestyle. Now, some people just live down here permanently, but it's not really that desirable because the summer is pretty hot. It's like 110 or 100, 110 degrees every day. I was here in the summer, and let me tell you, it's really hot. I noticed there's a lot less people in Arizona. This is the Tucson area, but a lot less people here in the summer just because it's too hot. It's like 90 degrees out pretty much right when you wake up. Um, so, there's people golfing, there's people, you see all the beautiful houses out here, and you wonder, uh, what did those people do? Did they invest in real estate? Were they company people that worked for the same company for 30 years? Maybe. Um, but it's pretty safe to say that most of them probably just didn't end up working a normal job for their whole life. Some of them maybe, but most of them probably not. They did something to get ahead. And real estate used to be that vehicle. I know a bunch of people or that are older than me that bought a couple properties 25, 30 years ago, and that's pretty much all they did, and now they're worth millions of dollars because they bought a property for $100,000 that's now worth like $1 million. And if you do that two or three times, uh, you've built up a nice net worth, right? As well as just being in like the stock market for 20, 30 years, during the all the tech stocks that went up: Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook. You know, Having a small amount of money in those 20 years ago would have resulted in lots of money today. But just owning real estate over the last 20 years has been incredible, right? You could have bought something for 100,000 that's, like I said, worth close to $1 million, and you get to live in the house. Potentially you had a couple rental houses too. But people today can't necessarily afford really even their own home, let alone rental properties on just a standard income. So that's why I think there's a push to do other things. And if you just have a normal job, you're going to maybe be able to pay your expenses okay, but you're not really going to be able to have a mortgage probably. If you do, you're probably going to be pretty house poor, to the point where most of your income goes straight to your house, and you don't have much left over for like anything else. Um, and then with interest rates rising, the monthly mortgage payment just becomes a little bit more of a stretch for most people, and so they can't really get into it. I've talked about it before, but I think there's always going to be inflation when the money is controlled by the government. They're going to decide to do things that basically tax the people directly or indirectly, whether that's through higher prices, which is inflation. Again, it's not a direct tax, but it is a tax because you end up paying higher prices for every item that you have to buy. Or it's literally through taxation. Just, you have to pay higher income tax or taxes on vehicles or whatever it is, right? So having dollars is just not good. That's why people put their money into real estate or the stock market, so that money can grow and compound over time. I think now that, you look at like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, I think it's just smart to have some exposure to that because it's similar to like the internet in the 90s. It's something that is changing finance and can revolutionize the whole system. The current banking system's really archaic, and it gives the power to the few, at the expense of everyone. You know, they make the terms. You look at credit cards and 3% fees, and the bank's only open 5 days a week, and they decide how much money you can take out. If you want to leave your money there, they're going to give you basically 0% interest. You know, now they have something where it's 4 or 5%, but still, that's much less than what the real rate of inflation is. And I see all the videos about people talking about, you know, you should get to 1 Bitcoin or try to put some percentage of your money towards cryptocurrency. And the reason for that is because it can't be manipulated. You know, Bitcoin, there's a fixed supply. It's not controlled by the government. They can't just print more of it. And people globally are looking for a place which they can store their money and not worry about losing purchasing power. And I think Bitcoin is an example of that, where, you know, it can't really be, it's not corruptible. And even if something does happen, you know that whatever happens with the dollar is probably going to be worse, right? If I just leave my money in the dollar or in the bank account, I'm not really going to get much for it, and the money's not really going to work for me. But with Bitcoin, you know, that you just look at the performance of it over the last 10 or 15 years, and it's absolutely crazy, right? And I think with things happening now with like the ETF and the halving, and people globally, just they want exposure to something where they can park their money and feel comfortable that it's going to at least maintain its purchasing power. The dollar is the world currency, but if you live in other countries, you know, your currency is very unstable, the inflation rate's high, the government can do things that, you know, make it very difficult to save. A lot of people, you know, even people here in the United States can't really get involved in real estate if you don't make a lot of money. So what do you do with, you know, if you have 20, 30, 50, $100,000 that you can't really afford a house, but you want to put that money towards something that's gonna be a good long-term investment? I think it's smart to have some exposure. Bitcoin, Ethereum. Again, there's a whole lot of other ones out there that are much more speculative. But you know, people talk about Bitcoin and gold. You know, I think Bitcoin just passed $1 trillion in market capitalization. Gold's at like 12 or 13 trillion. And, you know, they talk about how it could basically be on par with gold, which would mean it's at least a 10x from here. So, you know, I think it's pretty realistic to think that Bitcoin could be worth $500,000 within a few years, maybe 2028 to 2030. Because gold is the same thing. People have trusted gold because it's physical. It's had value for thousands of years, and you know, it's been used in the past as a store of value. Now, I don't really see gold really. It's not very attractive to the younger generations, and it's cumbersome, right? I mean, people buy gold stocks or whatever, but you're not actually most of the time buying the physical gold, and it's at $2,000 an ounce. And so I don't really, I mean, it's a decent store of value, I guess, you know, if you just want to maintain some money there. But Bitcoin, I think, has a much higher ceiling, and the risk to reward profile of something like Bitcoin, I think, is high. I think it's good, where you could put $25,000 or $50,000 into it, and in a matter of years you could, you know, 5x, 10x your money, or potentially more. And I think it's going to be much better than being in the dollar or being in, you know, like an index fund. It doesn't, you know, if you have a bunch of money, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be in Bitcoin, because you don't have to be, right? If you have a couple $1 million, you know, why would you even take the risk? You don't have to. Your life's already set. But if you are looking to, you know, get ahead, it makes some sense to have some small exposure, I think, to an asset that can really outperform pretty much every other asset. Even if you do have $2, $3, $4, $5 million or more, you know, why can't you put $50,000 into it. So let me know what you think. I'll see you on the next one.